Hey kids, you're about to listen to a comedy podcast. That means that none of this is medical advice. If you need medical advice or medical care, please contact your doctor.
Welcome to the Jock Doc Podcast,
where we discuss fitness and health and how to incorporate our modern understanding of science and medicine into our daily lives, but without it being so boring. I'm your host, drlennonsmith.com. I'd like to begin by apologizing to our listeners. We've received some feedback about the excessive amount of technical medical terms that I've been using, such as pyrexia and man bun in the oven. So I'll try to temper my terminology to a simpler one in the future. Here to help with that is our producer, Cameron.
Dr. London, it is the start of June, and that means it is the start of beach babes. You know what I'm talking about?
Like, when they're conceived or when they're built? The start of beach babes? How does that work?
The start of beach babes, babes on the beach. Every beginning of June, you begin to see babes on the beach.
Oh, okay. It's like bird watching. Yeah, okay. The season. Okay.
And Dr. London, since you and I mean, we're kind of known to be out and about on the beaches, strutting our stuff, peacocking a little bit, talking to some of the ladies. I was thinking maybe we could give some of our listeners some summer beach pickup tricks. Because we have talked about this a lot. This is a fun medical podcast, and I really like that. But if we could really be angling towards a pickup artist angle, I think that would be really special.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned the peacocking. So when you bring your peacocks to the beach, you want to have them tamed first, domesticate them first. A mistake I made for years on end was bringing a peacock to the beach, and it would peck me the whole time. And it's really frustrating when you're trying to establish dominance, in a sense. You're trying to be the alpha male, so to speak.
Unfortunately, peacocks don't have that kind of hierarchy, Dr. London. They don't have an alpha-beta hierarchy. They do have a level playing field, sort of a socialist society. So the best thing you can do is disguise yourself as a peacock to earn these peacocks' trust. Now, you're probably thinking, where am I going to get a peacock costume? Do those even exist? Yeah, they do. At the NBC store at 30 Rock in New York City. Their whole thing is peacocks. You're going to break into that store. Because, I mean, if you need tips on how to pick up babes at the beach, I'm going to assume you have no income or ability to purchase this.
That should be a given if you're listening to this podcast, honestly.
So just break into the NBC gift store and steal a peacock costume. Earn their trust as an equal, Dr. London. That's so important. And then you can lure them to the beach.
Yeah. And when you're wearing this costume, it's going to be itchy. It's going to give you rashes. And that's part of it. Okay? Stop trying to fret and say like, oh, I should spray this on there, or maybe I need ointment. No, that the rashes are part of the peacocking that you have to do. And this will also, given, like, now I haven't actually seen it pay off myself, but like, I think within a few decades, this should work.
Yeah, well, in Dr. London, peacocks, they don't put ointments on themselves. They're not worried about like rashes and all these different things. They're just living their damn lives as equals. But also, it's very important for peacocks to be able to show off their beautiful colors. And if you don't have naturally beautiful colors, you can get those via some of these rashes that you're going to be some of the rashes and diseases you're going to be getting from this costume that you stole will give you a really colorful skin that'll attract the ladies, the beach babes.
Yeah.
Now, go ahead.
Well, you're going to try to establish some dominance, but once again, it is a communist, socialist hierarchy. So when I say communist, they will form sort of an oligarchy with you under them is the most likely scenario with a peacock.
Yes, it is not like the book definition of communism where everything is, everything is fair or whatever. It's how communism usually ends up, which is, at least in my personal experience, it usually ends up with me cleaning up a peacock poop for And they call me Poop Boy. And they say they're really nice about it. They say, you're so good at cleaning up our poop. You're so good at it. And so I'm like, oh, thank you, sir. And they'll tip me, but peacock tips it's just like corn, which I don't care about.
Oh, you do? Okay, because I've really been appreciating my corn whenever I get a tip.
I appreciate the gesture, but I have corn.
Okay, yeah, you have your stash. And you haven't told them about your stash yet, have you?
No, because then they're going to take my corn. They're going to take my corn, and then I'm going to get it back piece by piece via tips.
Yeah. And then you're going to care.
Yeah. So at this point, you're wandering the beach, no longer leading a pack of peacocks, but being led by a pack of peacocks as you pick up their garbage and fetch them drinks and are feeding them the whole time. Now, this is a great opportunity where if one of these beach babes comes up to you and starts striking up a conversation like, that's such an interesting costume. These are such interesting birds. What's going on? This is your opportunity to prove to the peacocks how loyal you are to the peacock cause. What would a peacock do? Would they respond with, oh, I just thought this was a funny idea, kind of a play on words of peacocking to have a peacock costume? A peacock wouldn't do that. A peacock would go,
no. Yeah, peck at them, for sure.
Peck at them. And if they don't respond to it well, you chase them. If they do respond to it well, you give them bits of corn.
Yeah, that's right.
But the trust of the peacocks is the primary concern here. This is the most important thing.
Yes.
Now, before we move on from this, I would like to address a bit of listener feedback. For a long time, our listener demographic was primarily composed of zookeepers with nothing left to lose. But in our efforts to cater to them, we found that we were neglecting the many bot accounts that download our podcast. So this comment comes from, this is a comment on TikTok, a comment on our response to I See You. At Crash Out Kenny said, quote, why do they look so cartoonish? It's a filter, right? End quote. So thank you so much for this feedback. Now, we do get this question a lot because each of us wears the same thing every episode, okay?
Sure, yeah.
I wear this green V-neck, white lab coat, and you wear the attire traditional to your people.
Yeah.
And so the laundry machine, like, there's a washer and a dryer. And we learned that the hard way, that you have to use both of them, okay? So normally, traditionally, you would go to the washing machine and it would wash your clothes. But what we found was that one was, I thought the furnace was drying things off.
Sure, yeah.
And then I thought, well, I got the order confused and also which thing did what. So, all my other clothes are burned up.
Yeah, they're supplying heat to your house.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's all practical. Yeah.
It's all positive. It's all great. And for me, first off, I just want to say, okay, yes, do I wear the same clothes every day? But like Bart Simpson, I do have an outfit that I wear to church, that I wear on Christmas episodes. I have a different outfit if I'm at the beach for like a beach episode. And I have a different outfit if I'm flashing forward to the future.
That's right. And haircut. Your haircut changes too for that.
And my haircut changes, and yeah, this is like a fortune teller lady is telling me this or something, and it's sort of happening in my head. But all that to say, I think it's not just the clothes, Dr. London, but you know how, I think maybe this cartoonish comment is about how, you know how sometimes people have to like draw on their eyebrows, like they just have really thin eyebrows or even non-existent eyebrows, and they literally just draw them on. And that is socially acceptable. But for some reason, when you are forced to draw on the other parts of your face, like I have to do, like my eyes aren't really there, my nose, I don't really have a nose of any kind. And so those are all penciled in. Like I have to, they're drawn.
And your lips.
And yeah, the teeth, the lips as well. Yep. And I think I've done a really good job with it.
Well, so like I've said, like this is one of those things that you could hire. It's like doing your own haircuts as opposed to hiring someone else to do it. Like, no, and you're really putting in the effort. But I do think maybe you could try their service. Like people do this for a living. You know what I mean? So
I guess that's true, but I'd have to do it like every day.
Yeah,
or I guess I could just go some days without eyes or lips.
I just like this is just like there are expenses that you need to pay up, and there's expenses that you don't need to, and maybe this is one of those that you do kind of need to do. Like I wear contact lenses every day, you know.
Yeah.
And that doesn't.
Well,
change.
and you go to the contact lens guy every day too, so he puts it in.
Yeah. Well, we hang out, and he paints on whatever I want.
Yeah.
Because I'm really scared to sleep alone at night, so he paints on little friends basically for me.
Yeah, like a girlfriend that's sort of asleep next to you.
The last one, yes. Yeah, she was asleep. Depends on like sometimes she's kind of
even in the contact version she's sleeping like in another house.
Yeah, or she's awake and kind of manic, and I'm trying to talk her down. Because she's having a real freak out because like something happened at work, and I can't quite understand what happened at work, but she's like really worked up, so to speak. Like really upset, and I'm not sure if my words can help, but I'm trying. So thank you so much for that feedback. And let's see, we have one more question from TikTok. This is a comment on our response to "Don't look out the window. The fog is here. The darkness will consume you." End quote. This is from @thesillygoose333. They said, quote, "Your eyes are terrifying. Genuinely, you can't stand looking at you." End quote. So thank you so much for that feedback. So a lot of people don't know this, but I actually come from royalty. My father was Emperor Palpatine, and we do share the same eyes. And I have my father's eyes. I don't know what, like, that's actually a really nice quality in some cultures.
I'm sorry, a lot of this is like over my head because you know me, I'm not into nerd shit. And so that's why I've never met your grandfather or your father, just because like, like they're all into that, like nerd shit.
Yeah.
The Force. Ooh.
Yeah, no, they do go on. Oh, it's, I don't know, because I've met your family, and it's, a lot of, they'll use crystals and they'll hover around, and they'll shout things, and then things will move in response to the shouting.
Yeah, sure. And that's an issue?
No, I'm saying like I'm pretty cool with that. And so
that's my family, man.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm sorry. That's I guess that's inappropriate. Sorry.
And then my family. You can't feed them after midnight. You can't get them wet, or otherwise they turn into like sort of,
more of your family. Yeah.
A lot more of my family, and it becomes a real spacing issue.
Yeah, and with the housing crisis and everything, it's like we don't need to add to that.
Well, and they're smoking cigarettes, and some of them have a motorcycle jacket on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that leather, amount of cows. Anyway, so thank you so much for that feedback. We really appreciate that, and I hope we answered your question. But now it's time to move on to today's medical topic, membranous glomerulonephritis. So membranous glomerulonephritis is an autoimmune disorder in which immune complexes deposit along the subepithelial region of the glomerular basement membrane in the kidneys. This is membranous glomerulonephritis. It falls into the category of nephrotic syndrome as opposed to a nephritic syndrome, and therefore has clinical findings of nephrotic syndrome, including edema, which is a swelling, a hypercoagulable state, which is more clotting in the blood, and an increased risk of infection, lab findings will include urine protein excretion greater than 3.5 grams per 24 hours, hypoalbuminemia, and hyperlipidemia with fatty acids in the urine. And I personally remember nephrotic syndrome, nephrotic, as having protein loss. Those ROT, that's how I remember to differentiate it from nephritic as a defining characteristic.
And if you've been listening for the last couple of weeks, you have also heard during these medical lessons sort of my own scientific and medical experiments going on with my kidneys. And Dr. London, you'll be happy to know that this time I'm not injecting anything into my body, or gasoline is not involved. I actually read ahead to your lesson you're reading right now, and I did all that stuff.
You did all, because I just read off sort of the presentation for this disease.
I saw it as like a step-by-step instruction guide. So just one at a time, okay. I did the whole thing.
So the next part, you're going to be right in line with?
Yeah, I'm done. So I finished this morning.
For diagnostic and therapeutic purposes, patients with suspected membranous glomerulonephritis should be checked for antibodies against the M-type phospholipase A2 receptor. That's patients with high anti-PLA2R receptor levels they're likely to worsen, whereas patients with absent or low anti-PLA2R levels are more likely to undergo spontaneous remission, so that's good. Lower levels is good, basically.
Yep, did all that.
Okay. And let's see. For patients with membranous glomerulonephritis, treatment of the underlying cause may be curative. So, like, if it was hepatitis-associated membranous glomerulonephritis, antivirals may be useful. And then you got
a bunch of those.
Symptomatic treatment for membranous glomerulonephritis includes a low-salt diet to reduce anasarca, diuretics to help control edema, antihypertensives for the high blood pressure, and statins to treat the hypercholesterolemia. And since membranous glomerulonephritis is an autoimmune disorder, immunosuppressive agents may be indicated as well, but not typically for patients with asymptomatic non-nephrotic proteinuria. Sorry.
I did do most of that, but I had to fudge it a little.
Okay.
Like, I did have to use, like, margarine.
Rather
than, like, butter. Yeah.
Instead of immunosuppressive agents?
Yeah, that's what I call it. When I say that, that's what I mean.
Okay. So, and I guess just to end there, and I don't expect that you needed to do this, but kidney transplantation is indicated if the patient progresses to end-stage kidney disease.
That's sort of the last thing on the list, Dr. London, and that's kind of that's why I showed up here today, because I thought the whole thing was you and I were swapping kidneys.
Okay, that's why you showed up for the podcast.
Yeah,
recording?
I mean, to pick up my checks, to sort of like mess up your desk, all the stuff in your desk you like in a particular way, and I sort of move the things around.
Yeah, I do like it in a certain way.
Yeah, well, it's just gaslighting. I'm just gaslighting you as sort of like a bit. I guess
thank you for being so upfront about it, because normally I feel like your gaslighting is a little secretive.
I feel like I can be extremely honest with you right now, because after we switch kidneys, your memory is going to start failing anyway, because that's been what's happening to me.
Right. Since you've gone.
So I'm kind of good. Now. So like I can tell you like all my secrets basically.
Okay. Well, anyway, so that's membranous glomerulonephritis. And now I think it is time to reveal the giant news. I'm just so pumped for this.
I'm really, really excited, Dr. London. I've actually I've been screaming all morning, literally screaming into the mirror. Ah! Oh! Oh!
We've called the neighbors to tell them to shut up because we're busy. And the law enforcement has come, the ambulances have come, and then we got a lot of them to circle around us by digging a moat. And this is all because we were screaming so much. It would normally be called a public disturbance, but not for us.
But it wasn't a public disturbance. It was actually just a public act of joy. Let's take a step back here for a second. Dr. London and I, this is our 5th anniversary episode.
That's right. 5 years.
We've been doing this for 5 years. That's 365 days and counting, Hopefully we'll be able to do more.
Yeah, 63 or 2 or in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And but Dr. London and I, so we had it in our contract.
Yeah,
that once
5-year
we
plan.
hit 5 years, we get a significant budget increase.
Yes. And listeners might think, wait, where would the budget come from? Didn't you had a sponsor for 6 months and then they dropped you? And that's a great question to ask. We two notes on that. One, we also have merch that at least I think Cameron's bought.
Yeah.
And 2,
the Patreon.
And Patreon, yes. And so, to be throwing these things around like, oh, how could this possibly be making a profit? No, 5-year plan has worked out, and we proved that it can work out, and all I have to do is manifest. I had my dream board, which, I couldn't afford an actual board. Like, it was within my dreams that I had to lucid dream my way to my dream board to find it, because that's like where I could afford it.
Yeah, lucid dreaming is like VR, basically.
Yeah. So I lucid dreamed.
Sort of jack in.
Yeah.
You put on a headset. You say it's your lucid dreaming headset. I think it's just imagination. Like, I don't.
Well, yeah. I guess for you it's just imagination. And I think when you say just imagination, that's really selling it short. Because it's like what I do with it is pretty nuts. Because like I can go through and it's like I'm in. It's hard to just convey with words, but like it's like I'm there and there's a blank poster board in front of me.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and then I've got. No, I can't picture because my brain doesn't do the whole like picture stuff.
Yeah, sure. It doesn't. It don't like think real good.
No, and that's not the main thing it's supposed to do. So, but I go towards it and I sort of wave my hand near the poster, and then it's like, oh, the poster is actually my teacher from 6th grade.
And what are you describing again? I kind of forgot.
This is how we manifested the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll skip ahead to the part. So we found a wallet.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We found a budget. We found a budget.
We found a budget. We've come into a large influx of cash.
Yes.
At the last second, Dr. London, you were losing faith. I said, no, trust the 5-year plan.
Yes.
Trust the 5. Another saying of mine on a different group I'm on online is, trust the plan, trust Q, trust the plan. But for this is like, for the podcast, trust the 5-year plan. And we trusted it. And lo and behold, we're flush with cash. We're rich AF.
We're so good. Yeah. I don't even. So like, I'm trying to just think back to yesterday, honestly. Like, how was I going to do it? How will we keep the mob off our backs this year? Or even today, like I was kind of concerned. They kidnapped so many members of my family and like I was just running out of family. I'm like, surely, like, and I kept starting to make up relatives to kind of throw at them so they would go after someone else just to buy some time. And I was really running out of family. But
wow.
But then it happened. And who do I think? I guess success and entrepreneurship, a lot of people pretend to know this or that. And they're like, oh, you can't predict Wall Street. But actually you can, and we did, is what happened.
Because we found it on the street. Yeah,
well, by the wall, yeah. And And
I always laugh when I ever hear these like financial experts on TikTok or whatever being like,
yeah.
oh, do this. I'm like, okay, how about show me the money first? I, for example, have a lot of money that I can show you.
Yeah.
Because of the new budget.
Yes, the new budget that we found.
And
yes.
so just for the TikTok guys to be giving out this advice as opposed to us giving out this advice seems a little insane of me to not be doing that.
Yeah. So, and I want to, before we get to the official budget, we do have some items that aren't as liquid, maybe. I think it would be the financial term. Some things that, so one of them being, there's an ID, an identification card, for Jeremiah Hasbirth.
Well, this is Dr. Lennon. We can get into the sort of like, tips of what to do with success and newfound income, because I would say step number 1 is throw away the ID card that came with it. You, if anything, shred it and destroy any and all evidence of it existing.
See, my train of thought was we could sell this ID card.
And this is 2 schools of thought. And this is why when we pivot to being financial experts, it will be sort of like he said, you make a point, I make a counterpoint kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, to some extent, you throw it out the window, I go outside and pick it up, and then I sell it, is really kind of where it lands for me.
Yeah. Well,
So,
and this is, after I've shredded it.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, I piece it back together, and because here's the thing. I know that there's a market for young people these days who are, say, going to the liquor store or the bar, and
Right. And they want to look cool to the liquor store guy.
Yeah, and it's just the looks thing. And, people are allowed to look that cool in Italy at 16 years old, at 18 years old, In Germany, they're allowed to. And so we're just giving them this taped together ID is just a way
so
to
they can
let
show
them,
it off a little.
Yeah, show off. It's not doing anyone harm. We make them promise to not. We meant to say something there, and so that's one thing you can do with if you find a wall of investment.
Yeah. When you come in to your huge influx of cash, when this angel investor gives you this money just straight out of nowhere, the first thing you want to do is shred it, throw it out the window, and then have your buddy pick it up, tape it back together, and then sell it to a teen who will really impress his friends and also the liquor store guy.
Yeah.
And maybe the security guard there.
And I think the next, if we want to go through, because once again, I don't want to get into the money's a whole thing to deal with, and there was other stuff in the investment.
Yeah. Okay. So, for example, once you come into this large amount of cash, you are going to have suddenly pictures of a family that is not yours. Guess what? That is now your family. You can never reveal yourself to them because then it puts the new budget in jeopardy. But it is your responsibility to provide gifts on Christmas and stuff, birthdays. Maybe just keep up with them on Facebook and saying, "Wow, you're growing up."
No, let me clarify here. So when we say the gifts to get them, we are talking about the kind of thing that you would, like a cat would give to someone. Like it's dead animals, the heads of animals, generally is what you're going to present to them as gifts.
And obviously work within your budget. If you can't afford heads and you can only afford like ears or whatever, that's okay. It's not ideal, but sure.
And as for keeping it a secret identity, you're a bit like a superhero now, huh? With all this investment. So that's why.
And if you haven't sold the ID yet, and someone's like, "Oh, do you have a new identity?" You can be like, "Yes." See?
Yeah, which is the question we get asked so often. Yeah. So that's just Let's see. The other, also inside the investment budget will be a YMCA card. It's a card with their face and it's YMCA, and you have to figure out what that means. It's not the song, I don't think.
No, it's Dr. London. It is not the song. I know about this place because I used to visit there sometimes. It is a place where you go to have lunch while a bunch of old shirtless men work out around you.
Okay, and
it's
the thing
sort of you. It's kind of weird because you have to bring your own table and bring your own food and drinks and friends, which is crazy. I've never been to a restaurant that didn't provide friends for me.
Yeah.
But then you just go to the middle of this big room, put the table down, eat your stuff, and there'll be 40, 50 sort of old, droopy, like shirtless, kind of stinky old men, doing cardio.
Yeah, and I'll say like whenever you do have the opportunity to go and sit down at these places, you can't do it all at once. Cameron had to go, and then I had to go later because that's how you budget. Okay, we only have one card between us.
Well, and only one sandwich, and so we had to save up for a second sandwich.
Mm-hmm. Which, and that's another point I meant to bring up. Live within your means before the budget. Okay, try to live like you did before the new budget, because if you jump into the new budget and say that's how much money you always will have, you will run out so fast. Fast.
For example, I'm still using my normal top hat cleaner. When I sit in my top hat for the weekly cleans, yes, of course, I'm tempted to get the more expensive packages at the more fancy places, but I'm sticking with my nice, reasonable top hat cleaner.
Yeah.
They do monocles too now.
Okay, I was gonna ask about the monocle because your monocle has been filthy.
Yeah, and that's just from the natural eye crust I have. Yeah, that's normal.
Well, you say that, but remember we were at that dinner party the other night, and Mrs. Champagne, she kept commenting on your monocle, and she said, "Oh, what a crust of tomatoes." And I couldn't tell if it was sarcastic or in English or what. But
was she saying that to me? I thought she was. I don't know. I thought it was maybe she was quoting like a Beatles song or something. When I hear a British person, that's kind of what I assume. And I don't really see the point of thinking anything else. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I also don't see the point in thinking much else either, but aside from my original train of thought. Okay, so we've established what you do with the ID, what you do with the family photos, what you do with the YMCA membership card.
Yep. Now you got to figure out what to do with the security cameras outside of the place where you came upon this new budget of yours.
This new budget.
This is you don't want to start splurging all your money right away, but it might be useful to spend a little bit of this new budget to buy some silly string and a baseball bat.
Yes.
And just in case, I would say maybe like duct tape, handcuffs, rope, just in case, a security guard or whatever. And you're just going to systematically check out every possible camera that could have seen you pick up this brand new budget for your podcast, and you're going to ensure that none of them see the light of day.
And you might be asking yourself, why would you need duct tape and a baseball bat? This seems like a lot of supplies. The zip ties. It's because one thing that you will experience.
That's what you brought to it.
So, but my point remains. Once you get the high of a new budget, you do start to crave a bigger budget. You're going
to want more and more and more.
Yeah, you'll try to cover your tracks for sure, but then you will be thinking, well, if this much is out here, on accident one time. What if there's even more like that they're hiding in the building? And so you're going to start watching a lot of crime movies. Now, you watch it because you want to see how the dumb criminals do it and say, "Oh, I don't want to do that."
Yeah.
But like, and then you'll walk in and you'll be like, "Oh, hello." Well, I feel like I am giving away an upcoming episode, which is how to do a heist. So your investment, where we're at currently with the investment is recon, and
you're learning lessons from these films that you're watching. So, for example, you watched Ocean's 12 and you realized, oh, I have a friend who looks exactly like Julia Roberts too, because in this universe, the actress Julia Roberts also exists alongside the character she's playing.
Yes.
And that's all you need to distract them to steal an art or whatever they were doing in that second one. I don't really remember.
Yeah. Something important and not stupid, yeah. So
yeah,
but
a
money. Critical plot point. Yeah. And let's see. Okay, other things in the wallet as investment, you'll find ticket stubs. Let's see. And what you'll find is, because once you've gotten to the ID and the YMCA membership, you start to think that everything in there is going to be worth a lot. So let me tell you, not so. Sometimes you'll go through that investment thing and you'll find a ticket stub for a movie and it's like it doesn't even do anything. They already used it.
Yeah. That has so far been very frustrating with our new budget, which we knew it wasn't going to be perfect. But with the new budget came a ticket from 2003's Daredevil movie, the Ben Affleck one.
Yeah. Which everyone says like that's the best one, that's the best iteration of any of it. But and
so we took it to the theater.
Yeah.
And said, okay, please
give us
hurry up, sir.
Yeah,
please do that. And then they said to us, well, they didn't say anything. It was closed.
It was closed. They wouldn't. Yeah, there's no one there, right?
But the ticket didn't say that. You know what I mean? And so we were misled. But this is what there are drawbacks to getting this kind of moolah, to getting this new budget.
Yeah, which I guess leads us to the I want to say it's our final point, which is you will be hunted down when you come across your new budget.
Yes. Well, it's these fake friends, Dr. London. People always talk about it. Once you hit it big, suddenly every acquaintance and cousin's cousin comes out of the woodwork to hunt you down and try to arrest you and convict you of crimes and puts you on the FBI most wanted list.
Yeah. And you might think, well, this is a pretty small investment. Why would that attract issues? Well, you know how a lie can start out so small, and then you lie to cover up the lie, and then you lie to cover up that lie? Well, sometimes to cover up the investment that you found that's a budget for your podcast, you do commit larger budget investment to getting things, and those can get caught.
Yeah.
And it's not your fault.
Let's be real. The movies you watched were just the 3 Oceans movies, not the reboot, and then the Now You See Me movies, which famously has been mentioned in the show. I have a disease where I don't know any of the details of that movie.
Yeah, and Isla Fisher almost died behind the scenes.
And she almost drowned.
Yeah. So
those are the only movies you've seen. So you're just doing that sort of over and over again. You're not very good at it.
You are copying the plan. Yeah, completely. You're not trying to innovate on it or anything. You are just copying it. And most of the places you go to aren't casinos, because you don't live near one. And it's mostly like, a Jack in the Box. You found the investment outside of a Jack in the Box. This new budget. So most of your approaches aren't working quite the way that they did in the cinema. But that's, it's Hollywood, it's CGI stuff.
It's movie magic, yeah. Like, oh yeah, if I'm gonna do exactly Ocean's 11 on this Jack in the Box, and it's gonna, I'm gonna get all these millions of dollars. It's like, no, you get maybe like $2,000.
Yeah, and they will see you, and you didn't. Silly String doesn't really stop the cameras at all, does it?
No, it actually just falls off. Silly String's honestly not really sticky. It like clings to clothes, but it's not like Spider-Man's webs,
No, which and we even try, and like you can get the web shooter kind of Silly String that they had like in the 90s.
Just if you want to make it more fun for yourself, sure.
Yeah, but even that kind still didn't really stick well, and then you're kind of stuck with, you can run fast, and like you can outrun stuff for a little bit, but ultimately,
there are so many Silly String cans in your jean pockets that it's really slowing you down quite a bit.
Yeah, it's really hard to run with them. Yeah. And then one of them pops, and then it's just like when a Silly String thing leaks, it's like a big like foam thing in your pants, and then all of a sudden you're trying to like pull it out and like throw it away, but you can't because it's becoming bigger, and people are stopping and like just asking you, "Are you okay? Do you need help?" And you're like,
well, there's
no.
Silly String sort of shooting out of your pants, but in like multiple different directions. It's not sexual.
It's not oh, please no. No one, and by the way, no one watching thinks it's sexual. It's
no one's confused by it. I mean, everyone's confused by it, but not in that way.
No one's sexually confused by it. Yeah. Everyone is like, hey, are you trying to do a trick? I don't understand. And then you're like, no, you make up all the usual excuses that everyone does for that kind of situation. So all that to say, we did get $26. That's our new budget, and we're really excited.
And I guess last piece of like advice on what to do would be, don't lose yourself in the game. It's easy to get so caught up in it that you're not yourself anymore, and you lose your personality, and these $25, $26 sort of take over your mind and have a sort of Venom or Joker style effect on your life and body and kidneys, honestly, frankly.
Which I'll say, Cameron and I both did become lost in it, and as I said, yesterday's whenever we had the budget increase and we had a falling out, we tried to copy the Ocean's movies, and then we did, of course, have to kind of come to terms with things. And
we both tried to go solo because we forgot the most important thing of those movies. It's not the heist, it's the friendships, it's the gang. It's the group. It's doing it together. It's like the Peacocks. Everyone's equal. Some are maybe more alpha than others. Some are cleaning up the poop of the others. Sure, but everyone's equal.
Right, but we all got plumage. We all got some plumage. So, thank you to Cameron, to producer Cameron. Thank you to Digital Nose.